Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
Welcome to What's on Tap podcast. We're back again.
We
Fill
are?
in the...
Are we really?
We are. It's not an
how
illusion.
how can you tell? How can you be sure that this reaches our audience?
I'm not even sure that we're real. I think we're all part of a computer generation of that merely exists in the mind of an autistic child.
Wow. I have decided to be a solipsist, one who believes that I am the only consciousness that exists in the universe. You are a figment of my imagination.
Exactly.
I can never prove that you are real because my mind will think up whatever you will say or do.
Exactly. And how can you prove that I continue to exist once you have left my presence? And how can I prove that you continue to exist once you leave this room? When you go to pee, as far as I know, you cease to exist until you decide to reincorporate yourself into my reality.
Exactly. So welcome to whatisexistence.com.
Yes. Oh, welcome back to Relative Moral Philosophy.
I am your host, Martin.
And I am still your host, Stefan.
We think, we hope.
Well, you know, they say, I think, therefore I am. But...
I think, therefore you are.
Exactly.
I get scared.
If I think that you are there, then you exist. However, if I close my eyes, you no longer exist. And you cease to not see me as well. Because if I can't see you, you can't see me.
That's wow. So, to move this along to our beers, who is a famous Norwegian philosopher? I should know, but I don't.
I don't think they exist. I think they're only famous Norwegian fishermen and explorers.
I can only think about Kierkegaard, but he's Danish.
He is Danish. He is very, very Danish.
But he's also famous.
Yes, he is famous. I can only think of what was it? Eric the Viking. And then there was the guy who did the Scream. And there's a famous Ibsen. Is Ibsen's Danish though? Who is the famous Norwegian playwright?
Ibsen is Norwegian, but he's a playwright. He's a playwright.
So that's
he's
what
a philosopher.
So Ibsen is I thought he was Danish, but no, he's a
We'll claim
Norwegian.
Ibsen for this.
Yeah.
Because you have brought 2 Norwegian beers to the show.
Yes, apropos of nothing, there are 2 Norwegian beers here.
That's why I wanted us to get
Yes.
into Ibsen territory.
Yes.
Good job, Stefan.
Thank you. I am a big Ibsen fan, so this is a real honor to be here today to present these 2 Norwegian beers in his honor. He would also be honored to have these rich, luxurious stouts placed in memoriam to
In
him.
tribute.
Exactly. Because we are dealing with 2 of the biggest stout makers in Norway. And Norway makes some pretty amazing beers.
Yes.
I don't think people think of Norway as a beer mecca, but in Scandinavian terms, Norway's fucking killing it, man.
Yeah.
They have got some really, really great breweries up there. Amundsen has been doing these really intense, crazy stouts for years, just off the wall stuff. And then Lervig, the other one we have over here, they do stouts, but I know them for more of their IPAs and their pale ales and things like that. They do stouts. Stouts are usually pretty good, and they've come out with what I call their premium line called Off the Rack. Where they've made really high-end kind of stouts.
Exactly.
So first we're going to dive into your diabetes level pastry stout from the Dessert in a Can line. And I have to say, I have not been a huge fan of these of late because they're just so sweet and so syrupy that I just can't handle it. It's just too much sugar for me. And these all come in at, it's a 10.5% ABV. It is a triple C beer, coffee, coconut, and caramel macaroon.
Nicely done.
Dessert in a Can, I think we're about to get our diabetes on.
Diabetes. I have enjoyed several of these, even though they were super sweet.
Yeah.
Because whatever flavors on the can, you can always kind of get in the beer.
Yeah, I think they're always well made, and I think you're definitely the packaging delivers on what you're going to get.
Sometimes some of the flavors go into artificial territory.
Yeah.
Probably because they've added some extract or something to get it right. Who knows? But you'll never go, if you find your favorite flavors, you won't go wrong, really.
Yeah.
And I was for a split second I was scared that I had confused my two glasses because they are not in the same order as Stefan's glasses.
They're very, very clear which is
but
which.
then I sniffed them both, and they are night and day
Yes.
in aroma.
One smells like sugary frosting.
And one smells like heavy barrel.
Yeah, and one smells like straight up pure barrel aging.
Yeah.
Yeah, one smells really dry and barrel aged, and the other one smells like I'm about to eat a stick of butter.
And the Amundsen right now is a little bit too cold.
Yeah, I think they're both a little on the cold side, so that's why we've been what do we call it, vamping for a little bit here.
Blah 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 blah. Just holding the beers.
Yeah, trying to warm
them.
them to a higher temperature. All right, let's dig into this dessert in a can.
It smells sweet.
Right, because we've got coffee, coconut, and caramel. These should all kind of predominant flavors. So let's see. That's so good.
There's definitely elements of from all. Sometimes coffee gives off this really bitter, almost sour, acidic flavor, and I don't like that in beer.
Yeah, it's like the coffee sump acidic.
Yeah,
there's a lot of acid in coffee.
Yes.
And that tannin quality can really disflavor a beer quite easily, especially in stouts.
Exactly. And for the longest time, brewers used the kopi luwak, the Indonesian poop coffee, that small weasel-like civet cat creatures kind of eat the beans and then poop them out. And that coffee, when drunk, is actually on the sweeter side. And that's probably why so many brewers used it for so long. Also because it was really exclusive and expensive. But this coffee tastes like the sweeter coffee. Still has the body of coffee, but it doesn't go into the sour acidic.
For me, this is kind of like coffee with cream almost.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a really pleasant coffee flavor. The linger and the aftertaste is almost like a latte kind of, which I think is the coconut kind of comes through there in a very smooth, kind of subtle flavor. And then the caramel, I wish it was presented a little bit more on like a burnt note, but it's good. It's extremely smooth and balanced without being really syrupy and sugary, which I was afraid it would be.
And now that you've said these words, I can only taste latte on the aftertaste.
It is very like a latte with like a coconut milk almost. Yeah. That's really, really nice. Man, that's really solid.
It's a good beer, definitely.
All right, so what would you rate this one?
I'm so colored by my previous Amundsen Dessert in a can, like experiences and ratings, and I start comparing them to each other. Maybe that's not fair. This is somewhere around the strong 4. It might be 4.25. It's
For
not
me,
a 4.5.
For me, this is a solid 4.25.
Yeah.
I think if there's more coconut, it would be maybe a 4.5. Coconut's kind of a background note. Coffee really, really strong on this, which I think saves it quite a bit and cuts to the sweetness of the caramel part. But it is very light and easy to drink at 10.5%. Very smooth. But yeah, the coconut could be a little more dominant here, I think.
I think as it warms up, it'll leave strong 4 and head over into 425 for me.
Let's hope so.
I am hoping.
Yep. So up next is the Lervig Off the Rack, and it is the Australian Dark Rum 2021 barrel-aged imperial stout. Anything else? Oh, a whole bunch of stuff here. This is a blend of one imperial stout, base with deep chocolate, vanilla, and caramel notes, and another imperial stout base to balance out the blend with toasted booziness and a light peppery bitterness. Each base has 12 months on dark rum barrels, and the wood imparted charred oak, coconut treacle, with the faintest hint of ester-driven banana bread. 13.2% ABV. All right. So
it had a nice wax, which you removed masterfully.
Thank you. I felt like it came off very clean.
And that's what we want from waxed bottles.
Yeah. You don't want the brittle, like you start to take it off and it just crumbles and you're like, man, there's probably a lot of wax in this beer now.
And then you thought you got it all, and then you start pouring, and it drops up a big clump.
I would say this has a very dry barrel note smell to it.
Very woody.
Yeah. Like this beer just smells dry.
Yeah.
Cheers. Right, cheers. Wow. Now that is sweet. That is boozy.
That is actually sweeter than the Amundsen.
That is.
But it's rum sweet. It's definitely rum barrel sweetness.
Yeah.
Which I totally love. You look like you've like someone's put 2 sugar cubes in between.
So sweet. It is. This is the diabetes I was expecting from the dessert in a can. This is almost cloyingly sweet.
I was just going to say, I don't want you to say cloyingly sweet, because I don't think it reaches. I don't think it tips over into cloyingly.
Almost. It is almost overpoweringly sweet.
I am actually loving this one.
There's a hot alcohol booziness to it. Because I think that the barrel aging really comes forward on this.
But it's like a spike. It's like
a spike
of heat.
It spikes and then it drops really quick.
Yeah. So I'm not left with a boozy feeling afterwards.
There is definitely a toasted booziness and a light peppery bitterness. Although it is a very light peppery bitterness. I have to look for it. If they hadn't mentioned it, I would not notice it. But yeah. And it could be part of the alcohol spike as well.
Yeah. And banana bread, yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, caramel notes, vanilla, banana esters, sure. Totally get that. And that I think you would expect from the Australian rum barrel aging on this. 2 things I think this beer needs. I think it's too cold.
Yep.
And I think it needs to breathe. This is a beer I think you should if you're going to drink this beer, this is a beer you need to pour and then let it sit for like 30 minutes probably. Let it really burn off the alcohol nose. Let it open up. You have another beer in between, and then once it's come up to kind of room temperature, it's probably where it's supposed to be. I think we're maybe doing a little bit of disservice to this beer at this point.
No, but it'll get there.
It will.
You mean we might end the episode before this one reaches its full potential?
Exactly.
Maybe that's possible.
Yeah. So I'm cradling this beer. I'm cupping my hands around it, trying to warm it up, trying to get it to blossom a little bit. Because I think there's more here, but I think we have it just a little too cold.
There's also some more air. To quote Arnold Schwarzenegger from Total Recall, "Come on, Cohagen, give these people air."
You guys were calling each other Cohagen the other day, and I'm like, I know this reference, but I have no idea what it's in reference to. I cannot remember. Well, I haven't seen Total Recall in decades.
That's your weekend is set.
Well, okay, so here's the interesting part of that movie is Schwarzenegger sets early on in his love interest in films the kind of woman he's attracted to. Short, Hispanic-looking women
Yes.
are primarily his love interest in films, or his female opposite in films. Total Recall, Running Man.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. There's a couple more that lend credence to this. And then when he cheats on his wife,
Maria Shriver.
and you see the woman he cheated on him on her
Tall,
with,
short Hispanic.
short Hispanic woman, I'm just like, oh my god! So he was casting to type.
Yep.
That is really unsettling in many ways. I mean, Maria Conchita Alonso was amazing in Total Recall, but
You are way better at movie facts than me. Please tell me that Sharon Stone did Total Recall before Basic Instinct.
yes, that was like 2 or 3. It was like 2 years before.
Because I want to believe that Total Recall opened up Sharon Stone's career from lovey-dovey pretty face to badass.
I don't know if it was Total Recall because people didn't really know who she was still because she was really in a throwaway character part in the first part in her first half of Total Recall.
She's a part of a twist. She's a twist character.
But she isn't the main character, and she's kind of a throwaway character in a lot of ways. I don't think it's until like right before Basic Instinct that she hits Basic Instinct, and then she does like Casino, and she does a couple, and then she does a couple other movies, and then she does Quick and the Dead, and then her career just kind of goes off a cliff after that, because then you get things like what was it called, Sliver, and I can't think of what it was. A couple other bombs just right after that, and then she ends up doing like Basic Instinct 2 and like 2002, which is quite frankly one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. But then she's recently reappeared. I was watching The Flight Attendant, an HBO series.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. She shows up in that as Kelly Kuro, whatever the girl, Kuoko, whatever her name is, her mom, and freaking nails the scene she's in. I mean, just outacts everyone in the, like, you're kind of like, it's kind of like when I saw the Danish film with Mads Mikkelsen.
The Danish film with Mads Mikkelsen?
Right. The one where they play the drunks, where they all decide they're going to
so Danish title is Druk. One more round.
Yeah, one more round. Another round. And Mads Mikkelsen is so much better than everyone else. Mads Mikkelsen is sleepwalking through this movie and still outacts everyone else. And you're kind of to the point where you're kind of like, okay, if Mads Mikkelsen wasn't in this movie, I would really love this movie, but he is so much better than all the other actors. It pulls me out of the movie. Sharon Stone is the same way in The Fight Club. Like, she just walks through these scenes and just outacts everyone and everything. It's insane. But anyway, it has nothing to do with this beer.
No, we're back at Total Recall.
Yes.
It is one of the staples of the 80s.
It really is. And Paul Verhoeven is an amazing director.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen his most recent film.
Which one is his most recent?
Bernadetta.
No.
It's pretty good.
Huh?
Not great, but kind of a return to form for him. But I would say, like, you've got the RoboCop, which is a really timeless commentary on society.
Yes.
It still holds up. It's almost Kubrickian in its story structure, and the fact that every time you watch it, because it just matures with society, you get a different version of that film.
Definitely. The only thing that doesn't hold up in RoboCop is the animation where they stop motion animation.
Yeah, some of the stop motion animation does look a little wonky. But then, Total Recall is amazing. And then Starship Troopers.
I always like Starship Troopers. I feel like the fascist undertones, the fascist satire was always there. It's just recently that people go, "Oh, did you know the Starship Troopers is fascist satire?" Yes, I've known for many, many years.
It's not subtle. It really hits you over the head.
It hits.
You would have to be an idiot to miss it in the first viewing. It's like even in the 90s when I watched that movie, it was hard to miss.
Yeah. Exactly, with all the propaganda and you can only vote if you serve in the armed forces. But yeah.
Okay, so now that we've rambled for a good few minutes about Paul Verhoeven films, the Off the Rack is a much more balanced film. The sugar tones have calmed down a little bit.
More barrel now.
The more barrel, it's blossom. This is becoming a much, much stronger beer.
And the Amundsen is going... Wee sugar. Amundsen is a 5-year-old that's just been giving an overdose of sugar and is running around going.
It is the problem with dessert in cans. It's always buttercream frosting with flavors added. It's almost like they just start with like, we're going to make an alcoholic buttercream frosting, and they just throw in a bunch of flavors on top. So my takeaway here is dessert in a can, drink a little bit colder.
Probably.
Off the rack, drink a little more room temp.
Maybe completely room temp.
Yeah, because the Off the Rack is really starting to blossom now. It's really, really a nice beer. I'm going to give it a boozy 4.5.
I'm going to give it a strong 4.5.
Yes.
And that leads us to something we talked about before we started recording. I have had this Off the Rack at MBCC Beer Festival.
Yes.
As one of hundreds and hundreds of samples. And we talked about this. Yes, those ratings, when it's one sample amongst hundreds.
Yes. When you're getting less than a 10 centiliter pour, so it's like less than an ounce.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And then sharing that with friends.
Yeah.
The amount of beer that goes into your mouth is minuscule. And I gave this beer a 4.5 in the middle of that chaos. That does say something either about my dice rolling skills when putting ratings, or something that this beer actually manages to cut through other flavors.
I would say it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B.
I think so too.
Yeah, but whenever I see that you've checked into beer and it's part of a beer festival, I'm like, it doesn't count. You didn't really have that beer.
and I happily drink these beers again.
Yeah.
Because then looking, especially at Untapped, when you go into a beer and you see your progression through the years, that is a lot of fun. It's difficult to accomplish when we're always searching out new beers. So it's nice to get some beers both keg at the festival and then bottle in a nice, cozy, calm setting like this, and then hopefully one more time in the future with some age. Who knows? But this is a really good beer. It's a strong 4.5. The boostiness doesn't bother me at all now.
I would say now that it's warmed up and kind of aerated a little bit, it's really balanced itself. And that boozy edge that there was there before is really come around and created a nice after beer. This is an after dinner beer where you just want to just kind of chill and take your time and just really take a moment to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, now with heat and air, the rum sweetness has gone down a few notches, and the barrel definitely has gone up many notches.
You get a lot of cane sugar in this.
Yes.
And a lot of dried, what do you call it? Dark fruits.
Yeah.
Raisin.
Dates.
Thank you. Things like that. Prunes. So yeah, I think both of these were a lot of fun, really enjoyable. Dessert in a can, as always, drink fresh, drink quick, drink cold. You're going to enjoy it much more.
Yeah.
It opens up a little bit. You're kind of like, woof, this becomes weird.
Chug, chug, chug.
Yeah. Whereas the Off the Rack, I mean, it looks premium label. It looks pretty. It's meant to be poured, let it aerate like a cognac or a fine whiskey.
I was just going to say, put it in a cognac snifter, sit in front of the fireplace, the dog in front of you, you're set.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of fun. So we'll wrap it up here. 25 minutes. This is way, way, way too long for these two.
This was the philosophy lesson at the beginning of the episode.
So catch us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and just out in the ether on shortwave radio.
If the ether exists.
Well, I mean, if you're doing the drugs right, then the ether always exists. So until next time.
Keep drinking, you dum-dums.